Hey guys, I figured I'd just take a moment and go over your review. Okay, we went over it in class, but just in case you just don't remember some stuff, I want to go over it. Okay, so what are the real cube roots of negative 27.001 and 64 over 125? Okay, so what this question is asking is it's really asking what is each one of these things being raised to the 1/3 power. It's asking what is the answer? What is it? What is the number that if I was to cube it would give me each one of these numbers, okay? So in other words, basically I'm just raising each one of these things to the 1/3 power, all right? And the thing about this is that we should always check a number first in the calculator to see if we can take the cube root of it. See if we can make our life easy. Oh, I thought I'd bring my calculator over. There we go. Okay, so let's check negative 27. If I get my calculator turned on. Okay, my calculator does not want to turn on. Hold on one second. Try this again. There we go. Okay, so we can just say negative 27. Oh, I forgot my negative sign. Negative 27 raised to the 1/3. All right, we press enter, and we get negative 3. So this guy is negative 3. Okay, now we're going to check 0.001 raised to the 1/3. So, and again, since they asked you 0.001 as a decimal, that means we're accepting a decimal as an answer. Okay, since there was a decimal in the question, there can be a decimal in the answer. Okay, and we get 0.1. All right, and now 64 over 125. What I suggest you do for this one, oh, I forgot to raise that to 1/3. What I suggest you do for that one is check the numerator versus the denominator. So that way we just see, so that way we make sure we don't get a decimal, but rather we get a fraction. So that gives us 4 over, and then we can check 125, so we'll just say 125 raised to the 1/3, and that is 5. So we get 4 over 5. So there you go. That's how you do each one of these. All right. Number 2. What are the simplified forms of this and this? Okay, so square root of 16x squared. My suggestion on this guy is to break it up. You would have the square root of 16 times the square root of x squared. What do we know the square root of 16 is? Well, it's easy. It's just 4. What do we know the square root of x squared is? X. So we know 4 times x is just 4x. So for the next one, what we have here is we have the cube root of x to the 6th, y to the 15th. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the method that we talked about in class. Okay? And what that method is basically where you break them up and then we write it all out. So what I mean by that is we have the cube root of x to the 6th is x times itself 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then y to the 15th, and this is going to be a doozy to write, is y times itself 15 times. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay? So now what we're going to do, is we're going to go, okay, so this is cube root, okay? So cube root means that we have to have 2 die for 1 to go free. So 2 die, 1 goes free. 2 die, 1 goes free. All right, once again, cube root for all these y's. 2 die, 1 goes free. 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 Now you'll notice we had nothing left underneath the square roots on either the x's or the y's. So that means I get x times x, which is x squared. And then how many y's do I have go free? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's y times itself 5 times. So that's y to the 5th. So I get x squared y to the 5th. That would be the answer for number 2, part 2. X squared y to the 5th. All right. Let's move on to problem number 3, which is a word problem, but don't give up on it. Give it a shot, okay? So let's go on to problem number 3 here. It says the formula d equals 2.75 squares to h models the distance d in miles from the horizon, where h is the distance in feet from a person's eyes to the water. If you are standing in a boat and the distance from the water to your eyes is 12 feet. What is your distance from the horizon to the nearest hundredth of a mile? Okay, so look, it tells me something. It tells me some very important information. It tells me that the miles of distance d in miles from the horizon, okay, and then it tells me where h is the distance in feet from a person's eyes to the water. Okay, and then it tells me something else, and the distance from the water to your eyes is 12 feet, so it's giving you an h. It's giving you that h equals 12. And it says, what is your distance from the horizon to the nearest? So it wants you to find d, which is equal to 2.75. And it told me what h is for this problem is square root of 12. So then we can just throw this all in a calculator, and we can just say, if I can get it to turn on, 2.75 second square root of 12. And we get 9.53. Because that 6 bumps that 2 up and instead of round to the nearest hundredth. So we get 9.53. So D is approximately equal to 9.53. Alright, let's go on. Let's go to problem number 4 now. What is the simplified form of square root 25 x to the 6th y? Okay, so once again, I'm going to do this method the way I showed you guys earlier. I'm going to break everything up as much as I can to its primes. Okay, so 25. I'm going to break that up to being 5 times 5. Then I'm going to break up x to the 6th to being x times itself 6 times. So x, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then just square root of y. Okay, I have 5 times 5, so that means 1 dies, 1 can go free. I have 6 x's, square roots, that means 1 dies, 1 goes free, because it's square root, so 1 dies, 1 goes free. 1 dies, 1 goes free, 1 dies, 1 goes free. Okay, I only have 1 y, so I can't do anything with that. So I get 5 x cubed square roots of y. Okay, let's go on to number 5 now. Number 5 says, what is the simplified form of the 4th root of 512 x to the 10th? Okay, so first off, I want to break up 512 into its primes. Okay, so in other words, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for prime numbers that multiply to be 512. Well, I know 512 is even, I know that it's divisible by 2, and I know that 2 is even. So that means that I know I can say 512 is equal to something divided by 2. So I'm going to say 512 divided by 2. Oops. Enter, and that's 256. So I know that 512, I could rewrite it as 256 times 2. Well, now I can still break up 256. Well, I know that 256 is also divisible by 2 because it's even. And I know that 256 divided by 2 is 128. So 128 times 2 is the same thing as 256, and then I can't forget about this times 2. So times 2. Well, now I'm going to break up 128. I know that 128 is the same thing as 64 times 2, and I can't forget about these 2 times 2's. Okay. And I know 64 is the same thing as 32 times 2, and I can't forget about these 3 2's. So 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to break up 32 into being 16 times 2. And then I can't forget about these 5 2's. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I think that's right. Yeah, because this is 32. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Then 16 I know is the same thing as 8 times 2. Okay. And then I can't forget about all these 2's, these 5 2's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then I know that 8 is the same thing as 4 times 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And last but not least, I know that 4 is 2 times 2. So after you do all this, assuming you did it right, assuming I didn't mess up my counting, you should end up with 9 2's. Even if I mess up my counting somewhere in here, I know I should end up with 9 2's. So what I should have right now, and I'm just clearing that out so we can see, is the square root of, I've realized that 512 is 2 times itself 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? And then x to the 10th, I know, is x times itself 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, now these are both fourth roots. I forgot to write that, sorry. These are both fourth roots. So, on a fourth root, I know that 3 die so that 1 can go free. So 3 die, bam, 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 1 goes free. 3 die, bam, 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 1 goes free. And I only have one more 2 left underneath the square root, so I can't touch it. It's stuck. Not enough are willing to die for it, okay? So now I go to the x's. 3 die, 1 goes free. 3 die, 1 goes free. And that leaves me with 2 x's. I can't touch them. Not enough are willing to die for them. So outside of the square root, I had these 2 2's that are going to get to multiply. So that's going to be 4. Outside this square root, I have these 2 x's that are going to get to multiply. So that's going to be x squared. And then what's left underneath the square root? Well, I had 1 2 left underneath the square root. And I had 2 x's left underneath the square root. So I get 2x squared. And that's our answer. Okay? Number 6. Okay, if I've done this correctly, this is being inserted randomly into somewhere in the video. Okay? So if you're watching my video, now you're just seeing this random page pop up. It's about to go back to working on the problems. This is a bonus problem. If you can do this problem and know the answer, it will be on the test. But if you tell anyone, and if I hear anyone talk about it, they won't get credit for the bonus problem, all right? Because this is a secret thing only for those who watch the video, okay? It'll come up on the test, but you cannot tell anyone, okay? So if you come in saying, I know the bonus problem, I'm not going to give you credit for it, okay? And if you tell someone, they say, oh yeah, well, so-and-so told me, then neither one of you will get credit, all right? This is only for people who were watching. It's going to be worth 5 bonus points. So what is the square root of 25x squared? That's just a bonus problem. It's supposed to be easy, okay? But know that answer. It'll come up on the test as a bonus problem, and make sure you can do it, okay? All right. All right, so number 6 says cube root of 64x to the 7th divided by 125. Okay, so my suggestion on this problem is, one, to realize that 64 and 125 don't have anything in common. So then it might be best to break these up into being the cube root of 64x to the 7th divided by the cube root of 125. Okay, now what I always suggest is just check to see, can you take the cube root of 125? Come on, calculator, stop doing this to me. There we go. Okay, so let's see if we can take the cube root of 125. All right, oops, I need to put that in parentheses. Because if I can, then I don't need to worry about breaking it down to its primes. It's already nice and done for me. 5, nice. So I can say divided by 5. Okay, now I suggest doing the same thing with 64. 64 raised to the, because once again, if I can take the cube root of 64, my life will be super easy. And I get 4. So now all I have to do is deal with the cube root of x to the 7th. Okay, so to do the cube root of x to the 7th, I need to write x out 7 times. Remember, I'm trying to find the cube root of it. To find cube root, 2 must die in order for 1 to go free. So I only have 1 remaining, so I can't touch that. So I had 2 that got out, so that would be x squared outside. So I have 4 x squared times the cube root of x, all divided by 5. Okay? Let's go on. Problem number 7. It says multiply the cube root of 4 times the cube root of 10. Well, let's check to see if I can take the cube root of 4. Let's see if that's going to make. Let's see if they're making my life real simple here. Ah, they are not. So let's see if I can check to see if I can take the cube root of 10. See if they're making my life simple, at least on that one. And they're not. Okay, so that means that what I want to probably do is try to push these two guys together. The cube root of 4 times the cube root of 10. Well, since they're both cube roots, I can multiply them together. That would give me the cube root of 40. Okay? So now what you want to do Okay, so that's the cube root of 40. So now what you want to do is break down 40 to its primes. Okay, so I know that 40 can be broken down to being 2 times 20. And then I know that 20 can be broken down to being 2 times 10. And then I know that 10 can be broken down to being 2 times 5. Okay, so now I broke 2, 2, 2, 5. Those are all primes. I can't go any farther. So now what I can do is I can just say, okay, 3, cube root, so 2 must die, 1 gets to go free. And they only have 1 5, so I can't do anything there. So it's just 2 cube roots of 5. So the answer for this would just be 2 times the cube root of 5. Okay, let's go to problem 8. Now problem 8 is a doozy. Okay, so first off what we have here is 800, the fourth root of 810 x to the 9th times y to the 3rd divided by the fourth root of 10 times x cubed times y cubed. So first off, what I notice here is that these are both fourth roots, and I know that 810 can be divided by 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this one big fourth root, and I'm just going to say 810 x to the 9th y cubed, all right, divided by 10x cubed y cubed. Okay, so now I can ignore the fourth root just for a second. It's still there, but I can divide everything inside if they are divisible. I can make it happen now, okay? 810 divided by 10, that's 81. So now I have the fourth root of 81, okay? And then I have x to the 9th divided by x cubed. That becomes x to the 6th. And then I have y cubed divided by y cubed. Those two cancel each other out, so this is all I have left. So now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to check to see, okay, can I take the fourth root of 81 and get a nice number? Can I take the fourth root of 81 and get a nice number? Let's check that. 81 raised to 1/4, I get 3. Okay. Now, I still have the fourth root of 6. So what I have to do is simply say x times itself 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. It's the fourth root, so that means 3 dies for 1 to go free. So 1, 2, 3, 1 went free. I still have 2 left over, not enough for me to cancel anything out. So x times the square root of x squared. And bam, that would be our answer. Okay, that's how you do number 8. Number 9. Okay, number 9 tells me, whoops, I went too far. Okay, so number 9, just trying to make sure this is the right number 9. It's not, I didn't check. Okay, good. Okay. Number 9, it is square root over square. I know the instructions are to rationalize the denominator, but you don't want to do that first. You want to do that after you've done a little bit of work, okay? First off, when you look at the denominator, you're like, oh, I can take the square root of 4. That's easy. So you can get the square root of 6x to the 6y divided by 2 square root of xy, okay? And now, well, oh, okay. You actually don't really need to rationalize. Sorry, I kind of made up a fake problem. You shouldn't. Okay. I'm going to complete this problem the way I'm doing it, but you're not going to have to rationalize. But I'm going to go back to the problem, and I'm going to show you how to rationalize. All right. So I'm just going to complete this problem the way I'm doing it. So what I have right now is basically now I can make these guys be square roots together. Okay. So I can have 1 over 2, and then times big square root of 6x to the 6y over xy. So then the x becomes x to the 5th, and the y's cancel out. So you get 1 over 2, and there's no, you notice how there's no denominator here anymore? So it's just the 2 by itself, 6x to the 5th, all being square rooted. Okay? So that is the answer. However, the instructions were to rationalize, and I guess I came up with a bad problem. Okay? So let me show you what you'd have to do to rationalize. To rationalize, what you need to do is get the square root out from underneath the denominator. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides by the square root of 4xy. Okay? So then in the denominator now, I have 4xy. And then in the numerator, well, 4 times 6 is 24. x to the 6th times x is x to the 7th. Y times y is y squared. So I have the square root of that. So now I've rationalized. If all I did was rationalize, didn't actually simplify, which is what I have going on here, bam, that would be it. Okay? All right, let's look at problem number 10. Number 10. A square rug has sides measuring cube root of 10 by cube root of 10. What is the area of the rug? Okay, so first off, how do I find the area of a square? Length times width. They tell me what the lengths are. So it's just cube root of 10 times cube root of 10. So I can multiply those together, which I get cube root of 100. Can I take the cube root of 100? Well, if you don't know for sure, check. Okay? My calculator is really struggling. Okay, there we go. So 100 raised to the 1/3, which is 4.64. So no. So instead what I want to do is break down 100 down to its primes and see if that'll help me at all. So I know 100 is the same thing as 2 times 50. I know that 50 is the same thing as 2 times 25. So I can say 2 times 2 times 25. Okay, 25 is not even, but I do know that it's 5 times 5. Now remember, this is cube root, so I have to have something repeating at least 3 times, so that 2 can die and 1 can go free. Well, when you look back at this, you don't have any repeating. You only have 2 2s and 2 5s. So you can't kill off 2 of anything and have 1 go free because there'd be nothing left. Okay? So that means that you cannot simplify the cube root of 100. That's as far as it can go. Alright, now it's not actually that way on the test. On the test you can simplify. But I just wanted to show you guys that. Okay? Please let me know if you have any questions. Okay? Send me an email, send me a remind. Good luck. You can use a note card on the test. Study hard.